guys? Daryl with the Allegheny Mountain Living Channel. Today I wanted to put a little video together. It's pretty much dedicated to this gun that I just sat down in front of me. A few of my viewers, a few of you guys have noticed this gun in the I think it was the first Saturday PA rifle season video. This was a gun I was using this year, and this is a model 325C Savage. Little history on this gun. They started producing this gun in 1947. I got a cheat sheet here. I can't retain this much knowledge, but the reason this gun came about was prior to World War II, most of the guns that were out there were lever guns. Model 94s, 336 Marlins, you know, all the classics. And that was a go-to gun for years for hunting, because that's basically all there was. That Savage did have a few old pre-war bolt models that they made. I don't have the model numbers on me or know them in my head, but they didn't sell very many units because the lever action was a go-to gun for hunters. That was the gun. And the caliber that was one of the main calibers that was used for many years was the 30-30 Winchester, which kind of went out of style, I guess you could say. I think it's a great deer round for our area. That's my go-to round for where we hunt here. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys that still use them. I know a lot of the guys, you know, my brothers and my dad all use 30-30s. My brother uses a 336 Marlin. My dad uses a Savage similar to this one. It's all on what you like and what you were raised with, but I grew up with 30-30s and that's what I still use. I know a lot of guys use 35s, 32s, you know. 30-30, I've never had a deer run off after I shot one with a 30-30 round. I just never did. I hear guys say all the time, you know, you can't kill a deer with a 30-30. That's baloney. I mean, I could tell you of a few hundred deer throughout my family that were killed with 30-30, you know. The only deer I ever had run was the first buck I ever shot, a spike horn buck, and that was because I shot it in a heart. It ran 80 yards before it piled up under a log. But drop them all the time, and I'm not knocking the other guns, the other calibers. I mean, you ought 6 guys out there, and 308 guys, and 243 guys. It's all on what you're used to and what you grew up with and what you like, and where you hunt. The types of conditions you hunt too make a big difference. I mean, our area, it's usually within, I'd say your average is 40-50 yards, you know, that you're going to shoot at a deer. Now, there's 100-yard shots, 120-yard shots, but this gun's, you know, capable of that, no problem. So anyhow, I wanted to get into a little history of this. Like I began to say, after World War II, Savage decided they wanted to design a simple rifle at an economical price. So they came out with this model 325. It was a Stevens Savage gun. They used stamped steel parts for a lot of it, you know, to keep the cost down. The clip has an external 3-round clip. It's stamped steel. You know, but that's how they kept the cost down. During the war, a lot of our soldiers, and after, when they came home, got used to using bolt-action rifles. So Savage was actually in the defense industry. They actually produced some military guns, and they kind of envisioned what the soldiers might want when they come home, you know, when they get back to their normal lives after they served for our country and started hunting again and doing that type of thing. So they decided to come out with this gun as a bolt action because, like I said, a lot of the soldiers, that's what they became accustomed to in the military, was a bolt action rifle, and a lot of them with telescopic sights. So Savage kind of seen that and decided they were going to try to capitalize on that, and therefore the 325 was born. Started producing 1947. I only had a 3-year run. I don't know how many units they sold or why it was only a 3-year run, but 1949 they dropped this model. Not sure why. This particular gun here, I believe, is probably a 48. They had different renditions and revisions of this gun. I believe there was a model A, 325A, 325B, 325C. And what that was they changed like the rear sight on it. The original ones had a screw down type sight. This one has a permanent fixed sight on it. And there were some other slight revisions, but they drilled and tapped the back of the gun for a peep sight right here where these two holes are, and I actually have one of those, believe it or not. That is an original. That is the peep sight, and it would have been mounted back here like so. These guns, these original ones, were not drilled and tapped for scope. Now you see a scope on this one. It was actually already drilled, tapped, and installed when I got this gun. I've had this gun since I was probably, I'd say 7 or 8 years old. This was a Christmas present from my father. That's the way it was when you were 7, 8, and you got your first deer rifle, if you could afford to do that for your kids. So I was fortunate enough my dad bought me this one. Beechwood stock on these old models. Lighter stain like this is. This is not original. My dad actually installed that with the white inlay and installed this white inlay. They didn't come like that. And like I said, they didn't have scope mounted on them either. And for all your purists, I know you're probably cringing at the thought of that, but it is what it is, and it's a tool, it's functional, and I've killed many deer with it. So this gun was only chambered in the 30-30 Winchester. That is it. They did not offer any other variations. It was 30-30 Win. That's it. That was the deal with it. This gun was designed to handle around a 42,000 to 45,000 psi range cartridge, and like I said, they were trying to target a certain crowd with the gun. I don't know how many units they sold. I wish I did know that. It's hard to track these guns because they are pre-serial number guns, so there's really no way to date them other than the revisions. You can get a pretty close idea what year they are. And like I said, I believe this is a mid-production model. I believe this is a 48. It doesn't look like a model 1948 gun. It looks like a modern bolt action for the most part. They did have, on this early gun, as you can see, they used a European style butter knife bolt handle on it. You can see that. It's not the greatest design, but of course these guns weren't designed to have scopes on either. It's tight clearance here. I mean, I'm used to it. I've been wrenching this bolt my entire life, so. But if you have gloves on, your hands are freezing, it could be a little troublesome. If you don't throw that quick, you know, you're not going to eject your shell. So, but it's just the way it is, and I've grown accustomed to it. You shoot a deer or two with a gun, you figure out how to use it efficiently. So. As far as the barrels go on these, you can see the trademark Savage nut, barrel nut here. Now, I can't prove this whatsoever, but there was always rumors that one of the reasons they designed this gun the way they did, other than what I had already told you, was these were leftover machine gun barrels. They had these barrels surplus from the production of their guns for military in their defense contract. Is that true? I don't know. It sounds good. I guess it would make sense, you know, if somebody in marketing thought, hey, we got all these barrels laying around, we need to use these things up. Let's try to target the hunters coming home from the war, and let's throw something together. So I don't know if that's true. I've read that on different forums and whatnot. So as far as a gun chambered other than a 30-30, Savage Stevens being a division of Savage, did make a model, was it a 322, and then they had revisions just like this one, A, B, C, and maybe S, I think, I don't know. Around the same time, it ran 47 to 49, and it was chambered in a 22 Hornet. So it was a similar gun, but it wasn't the same gun. It was a different model number. But those were the two bolts they ran with in those 3 years in the late 40s. A lot of the ideas on this gun were pretty innovative at the time. In fact, Remington, I think, actually used a few of the ideas and then improved upon it on the old model. What was it, 721, which later became a 700. But there are similarities in the style, the way they did the bolt and everything. So that's about it for the 325C. Production ended in 1949. They dropped the line. I don't know why. I guess it didn't sell like they had thought it would, or they envisioned something else. I'm not sure why they did that, but 1947, 1949, this is a model 325C. Like I said, I believe it's around a 48 because of the C. It could be a 49, I'm not sure. It's got the newer sight, set up for scope. I think that's about all I want to say about this one, other than it's a phenomenal rifle. Never had a problem with this gun. I've shot so many rounds through this gun, so many deer. I've never had a jam, I've never had misfires, nothing. No problems whatsoever. I knew a guy that had one of these, and I don't think he ever cleaned a gun. It was disgusting to see, and that thing always shot. Always. They built these guns, they were economic, they were cheap, but they were a good shooting gun out of the box, and they were tough. You can see they didn't recess anything. They geared this gun to be affordable. So, you know, they couldn't take the time to do all that handwork and everything on it. It was a mass-produced gun. So, for what it is, it's a phenomenal gun. And as far as I'm concerned, it's one of my favorite deer rifles, period. I love the old Savages. I love Savages, period. They're just, for the price, they're a great gun. Don't get me wrong, Remingtons are beautiful, Winchesters are beautiful, Rugers are beautiful, but for what this gun is, it cannot be beat. I mean, price-wise, and you can still find these guns. They're still out there. Well, I don't know about the 325 so much. The next model we're going to get into, you can find, and they're not that expensive. I mean, if you find a really nice one, you're probably going to get it for maybe $250, $300 at best, with scope on it and everything. I mean, they don't sell real expensively. They're not a highly valued gun or anything. As far as the 325 goes, I did a couple YouTube searches and I have not seen one of these on a video on YouTube. I've seen 340s, 840s, other ones, but I've never seen one of these 325s. So I don't know if they just didn't sell that many or what the deal is, but all the ones I've seen were a lot newer models, you know. So that's it for this one. They quit making this one 49, and cue the next model.